900 Rotary clubs, 17 districts. So it's a huge territory. And then he also, of course, is supporting all the districts in Zone 34. So it's really a huge territory. But I think the most significant thing is that Terry is the primary developer of the reports you're going to see, and there will be new reports being developed over time. And these reports are being used throughout North America. So any clubs that are using either DACDB or Club Runner, which includes, I think, most of the clubs in North America, have access to these reports. So anyway, he's got a lot on his plate, but he is giving us an hour of his time to go through some of these. So I'm going to shut up and let Terry take over.
Thanks, Kevin. And I appreciate the time on behalf of all of you to join us today. We have a lot of material to cover, and in the interest of time, I pre-recorded some of the on-screen material, so that'll just be kind of interleaved here, and I apologize that that's not all live, but we'll get through it much more quickly that way. So the question really is, how does membership actually work in a Rotary Club? And there's some facts and there are some myths. The first fact is that it's not true that all Rotary clubs in the world are shrinking. In fact, with respect to your own district, you have 29 out of 70 Rotary clubs that are bigger than they were 3 years ago. Now, that's in the backdrop of, in general, yes, Rotary International and Rotary North America are declining at a rate of round numbers about 1% a year. But it's not because all Rotary clubs are on the decline. The second thing I've learned is attrition is real. These are membership organizations, and people don't stay in membership organizations forever. You know, they move along. And so what we have here is an average of 16% attrition across North America and across most of the world as far as Rotary is concerned, which might sound high, but you know, I did a little bit of benchmarking against that, and I found out that the average U.S. Trade Association drops members at a rate of about 15% a year. And the average alarm monitoring company, think ADT or Wells Fargo, their turnover rate of customers is about 13% a year. Some of you know insurance agents, you know, Allstate, State Farm, they turn over customers at an average rate of about 16% a year. And so the question is, what do all those organizations have in common? And that is they got over it. And I think we need to get over it and grow up as well, recognize that we can control some attrition and we need to do everything we can to retain members. But at the same time, there's part of our attrition we just can't do anything about. And in North America, that number turns out to be about 8 to 10%, seems to be the life happens level. And I've deduced that because if I look at a whole district, it's rare to find clubs under that 8 to 10% range. In your club, it's a handful of clubs district-wide that have attrition that low. And interestingly, most of those are also shrinking. We'll get into that another time. But so that must be about the life happens level, at least in this part of the world. That's about as good as it gets. And that's important to know. I'll come back to that. It's also true that attrition rates are remarkably consistent from year to year within the same club. Now, from club to club, they vary greatly. But unlike your mutual fund, a club's attrition rate is a remarkable indicator of future results. And you can pretty much set your watch by it. Now, retention. You've heard a lot about retention if you've been in Rotary anytime at all. And retention is important. In fact, it's essential. Every member you retain is a member that you don't need to replace. But it's highly overrated as a growth strategy. You can't retain your way from 20 to 25 members. So let's talk about the essential data points that you'd need to know with respect to a given Rotary Club. And the first is the attrition rate. That's the percent of club members that are lost in any given year, in any average year. And we get, of course, that data from RI. That's the source data that drives most of these reports. Now, 16%, I mentioned that before. 16% is a magic number. And it's magic because 16% is the benchmark by which you know whether a club is ahead or behind the rest of the world as far as attrition is concerned. Attrition rates over 16% need attention. Now, on the other hand, I mentioned that 8 to 10% best in class range. When you see a club down in the 8, 9, 10, even 11 or 12% attrition rate, that's about as good as it gets. They're doing great. So, don't bother them about attrition. That's not their problem. The attraction rate. The attraction rate is the percentage of members we bring into a club in any given year. And the question is that greater than their attrition rate? And the answer is, of course, it needs to be if the club is not going to be declining, but rather growing. And finally, the attrition counts. Now, percentages aren't everybody's cup of tea. So we present the number of members terminated in an average year, which is a great predictor of the number that will need to be replaced in the coming year. And here's the deal, folks. We have to help the clubs understand that they need to start pre-replacing those. Those people don't start terminating in July and August and September. But we do need to be adding members in July and August and September in anticipation of the attrition that's likely to happen, which usually happens later in the year and is backloaded into the last couple of months. Now, these things are a major wake-up call. This is the deer in the headlights moment for incoming presidents-elect. But the good news is that all of that data is part of the membership goal page in the Membership Success Center, and it also includes some prompts to help them make sense of it. So, what's the problem to solve? This is a club level question because the fact is one size doesn't fit all, one size fits one. You have to know your problem to solve if you're going to be able to help a given Rotary Club. So let's talk about the possibilities. Is there attrition above that 16% number? Again, global average, North American average, and I believe your district average is like 16.8. They're all clustered right in there together. If that's the fact, the problem to solve is engagement and member experience. Members are voting with their feet because they're not getting what they expect. Now, what about attrition rates below 10%? As we talked about, that's about as good as it gets. That is not the problem. So let's not work on that much harder because you really can't move that needle much below that 8 to 10% range. They're pretty much best in class. So finally then, does their attrition, if they've got a membership problem, which not all clubs do, is it because their attrition rate exceeds their attraction rate? Now, that could be simply they're not paying attention to the fact that they have attrition and they're not inviting enough members to cover it, or their attrition rate is so high that perhaps it's just too high to be able to overcome by attraction. And frankly, that's a revolving door that we don't want to promote. If we've got an attrition problem, let's work on that in parallel with attracting some more new members. And again, that's all on the membership goal page in the Membership Success Center. So the next question is, well, given all that knowledge, can we predict a Rotary Club's future growth or decline? It turns out that indeed we can. Let's have a look. We started a project about 7 years ago to figure this out. And that project evolved into what's today known as the Membership Success Center. Let's have a look. This is the welcome screen of the Membership Success Center, and the report that will fairly accurately predict a club's future growth or decline is called the Membership Growth Index. It's right here. When we open the MGI, we see a disclaimer right off the top that I'll read to you, and I want you to take this to heart. Not accessible to level 4 or lower access levels. That means club users. Please do not share with clubs unless you're available for a lot of explaining. The fact is that this information is not relevant to clubs except for the one line that affects their club, and we have a lot better ways to deliver that. It's simply too much data, and it will just vapor lock a club user if you even show this to them. So this is for you, district leaders, so you can tell where your clubs are that are likely to succeed or fail in membership over the next 2 or 3 years. The first group is what we call the green line clubs. And these are clubs that have grown over the past 3 years. And turns out that results in about an 80% likelihood that they will continue to grow. You've heard that success breeds success. And sadly, also failure breeds failure. Then there's a group of clubs in the middle. We call those the yellow line clubs, and those are clubs that have moved only less than plus or minus 5%. over the past 3 years. And those can go either way. There's nothing really predictive about that, except that they're right in that fragile balance in between. Then there are the red line clubs. These are declining clubs. These are clubs that are smaller than they were 3 years ago by more than 5%. And these clubs will likely continue to decline. They have adopted this culture of decline. They have adopted this chronic membership decline culture. And it turns out that's very difficult to shake off unless something changes. So let's dig into this report a little bit further. Notice some check boxes up here at the top. One of them is show 5-year club data. That way you can get a real good idea of where these clubs have been over time. The other is show attrition attraction member counts. That's further illuminating data. And then I'll point out this little symbol up here at the left-hand corner. That's known in the trade as a hamburger. And when you click on the hamburger, it collapses this left navigator and gives you this report full screen wide. Now there is a scroll bar here at the bottom, but basically, let's take a look at this. First of all, we see, let's scroll up to some green line clubs. First of all, we see clubs like, for example, Somerville Evening. 3 years ago, their club had 29 members. Today they have 34. Not bad. You remember we talked about attrition rates and attraction rates. This is the attrition rate column. They have a very moderate attrition rate, almost best in class, down toward that 10% level. And of course, the math that is based on is their average annual attrition of 3 members. They'll need to replace about 3 members a year. You'll notice also their average attraction rate, well above the average attrition rate, more than 5% above. So in fact, this club has been growing on average more than 5% a year. Let's scroll down to some yellow line clubs. Now what you'll notice about the yellow line clubs is that their attrition rates are not bad, with the single exception of Pawleys Island. Most of the rest of these attrition rates are at or below district averages. What these clubs also have is an attraction rate that is almost dead even with their attrition rate. As a result, they've just been kind of flying flatline, 47 ending at 48, 32 ending at 33. Then let's go down and take a look at some of the red line clubs. These are the clubs you want to be worried about. And importantly, these are clubs that are not in that small club category. Now you have small clubs. I'll scroll down to a few. All the small clubs, member counts below 20, are highlighted in red, so you can spot those clubs that are indeed somewhat fragile due to their small size. But take a look at Columbia East. Nobody was worried a few years back about a 54-member club. They're now down to 41. Columbia, nobody was worried about a 191-member club. They've managed their way down to 131. And that's, in the case of these clubs, as a result of some substantial attrition rates, more than 20%. They're literally replacing the whole club every 5 years. If we scroll up to some clubs that have declined less, for example, Myrtle Beach declined from 99 to 93. Their attrition rates round about 17%. They just haven't quite been attracting members at that pace. Then you take a look at Beaufort. Beaufort has an attrition rate to be proud of, 14%, less than the district average, less than the national average. Trouble is, they only attract members at a rate of about 10% a year, or about 7 round up to 8 members a year. That's not enough members to maintain a 70-member club. That will result in this year-to-year average decline that's gotten them from 72 members down to 65 members. So those are some of the highlights of the Membership Growth Index report. You can tell for every given club in the district what their membership has been each of the past 5 years. You can tell their average attrition rate for the past 3. You can tell their average attraction rate from the past 3. And from that data, you can spot the clubs that are going to need help. And we have time for questions.
I just had one comment, and that is if there's a club that created a satellite or impact club, that you'll see that sudden bump in their membership, which may look like it may affect their apparent attraction rate. So you have to analyze that if you see a very high attraction rate. And if two clubs merge, that you'll also see that bump. You just need to dig a little bit deeper if you see something that really looks out of the ordinary.
You do. And of course, we can't adjust the year-end start and end counts. But what we can do, and have just added to the MSC, is we can adjust out those adds in the case of a merger or those terminations in the case of a spinoff. And so we have a feature in the MSC now. We'll have to get that information from you in the field because we don't have a way of seeing it. But if you can tell me that a given club spun off 16 members 2 years ago, we can drop that in and we'll bias that out and recalculate their actual attrition rate of the core club. Anybody else?
This is Ann Walker.
Sure, Ann.
I'm just curious for those that have, because I'm in the Columbia Club. And I hear what you're saying about attrition versus attraction. For those that have maintained the 16% or less, are they doing anything different that those of us that are dealing with? I don't know if it's because if you have a larger club, you gotta, if statistically, you got a better chance of having a larger attrition. I mean, who knows? But percentage wise, it's still not what you want it to be. So, any thoughts or ideas? Is anything new out there so far as attraction to decrease the attrition?
Yes, being part of a large club myself, I do understand all that. And the fact is that what's missing is engagement. What's missing is that in a larger club, it is a challenge to get more people involved in more things. I mean, you really have to work at that. And that has to just be a top priority of the membership committee. We do have some other material on exactly what people are looking for in Rotary clubs. And some of it's in the MAP webinar library. We know what people want from a small club or a large club, and a lot of clubs are not laser focused on providing those things. So we could come back to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Looking in then at the next set of tools, which are the progress dashboards. First of all, there's a district dashboard. And the district dashboard also has a feature known as the success track. Let's have a look at that. Here's the deal. We have a seasonal business. We made it that way. We charge dues to the clubs twice a year, and that means that in December, they'll drop members because they don't want to pay for them in January, and in June, they do the same thing. Now, North American districts, it turns out, lose right at 1% of their membership during the last few days and the last few hours of December. And it's fairly consistent. Now, it could be 1.25%, 3/4, but it's right in that range of 1%. And that's pretty much universal across North American districts. The other thing is that drop is bigger in June. That drop is about 2.5% to 3% in some cases of membership during the last few days or hours of June. So what we've done is we have built a model that suggests where a district needs to be in order to have enough membership gain up to that point to withstand those drops. We're not going to change that behavior. The clubs are doing exactly what you'd expect them to do given the rule set that we put on the table. But what we need to do is we need to go into December with a net gain of about 2%. And then we can finish the month. If we take that 1% loss, we'll finish the month about 1% up. And then we have a ramp to start on going into June to get ourselves up to a net gain of about 3%, again, to withstand that roughly 2.5% drop that we anticipate in June. Like I said, the antidote to this is having enough membership gain on board. It's not, don't try to suppress that membership loss in June or December. You can't do it. It's like working against the ocean. So the antidote to that is we need to have enough members on board at each of those 2-month starts in order to withstand that drop. Now, that means for a 2,000 member district, the success track looks like this. It's a ramp up to that 2% level. In the case of a 2,000 member district, that'd be plus 40 members by the beginning of December. Then you see that roughly 1% drop. We expect to lose about half of those. Then we start on this same ramp, the same slope, you'll notice, from 1% to 3% is exactly the same slope as 0 to 2. And that would get this 30-member district up to about plus 60. Now, this is not a guarantee. This is a model. But the point is that we have districts getting all excited when they're back here in March and they're net positive by like 5, and completely oblivious to the fact that that is basically 30 members short of where they need to be in order to get to this plus 3% by the 1st of December. Then, of course, after that December drop happens, we finish at about 0.5%. So let's take a look at the progress dashboard in the Membership Success Center for the district. Opening the Membership Success Center, we find the progress dashboard link right over here, and it opens by default to the club progress dashboard. So let's skip ahead and have a look at the district view. It opens up with several interesting statistics. First of all, the count of growing clubs, declining clubs, and fragile balance clubs that we saw in the MGI report. Also interesting is today's snapshot, the number of clubs with 0 new members year to date. Now, folks, this is a snapshot as of the 1st of April. 0 new members through the 1st of April is an absolute assurance that these clubs are going to shrink. We have 17 more clubs that have attracted only 1 new member year to date. There are virtually no clubs in your district where 1 new member will be enough to replace the current year's attrition. So we have 27 clubs set up to finish the year with a net loss. Let's scroll down and have a look at the success track. You'll notice in December 1st, we needed to be at a target of roughly 74 members. We went into December rather with 24 members, 50 members short of the success track model. We were 50 members behind as of the 1st of December. Now you'll notice also that we had a net drop in December, roughly equivalent to the net drop forecasted by the model. So we ended December rather than 1% up, which would have been 33 members, we ended December with a net loss of 5. Now the real problem is we haven't been able to get our motor running in the second half. So where we are today is at a target of 84 members as of the 1st of April. We're at minus 25. That's where this number comes from. We are 109 members short of the success track pace going into the 1st of April. And that will result, rather than a net gain of 0.5% or 16, we can forecast right now based on this spread, how far behind we are right now. If we finish the year that same distance behind, we'll end the year at a net loss of 93 members. This is all completely predictable, and the predictability of it started right back in here when we started falling behind the success track and then couldn't seem to catch up in the second half. So that's the value proposition of the success track model. It helps us understand just how much net gain we need to have going into December in order to accommodate that December loss, and going into June in order to accommodate that June loss. Now let's take a look at the clubs. This is the Lexington Club, which we've had a look at before. And let's take a look at the stats here. Now the Lexington Club has an objective of growing from 76 to 79 members. They lose on average 9 members a year. That means they need 13 new members in order to meet their goal, of which they have 4 so far. They've also taken 7 out of those 9 terminations, so that's starting to look like a pretty good forecast. Now let's take a look at their progress. This gold line is what we call the pace to goal line, and that ramps up to the 13 members they need in order to meet their goal of growing by 4 and replacing their average attrition of 9. They've already lost 7 of those 9. Had they lost more than 9, this would have ramped up to include those actual losses. Now, the blue bars are their actual progress month to month. They started off early in the game, but just not quite strongly enough. They moved from 1 member to 2 members to 4 members as of the 1st of February, and they've been flatline ever since. So they've got this huge gap between where they need to be at about roughly 10 and a half, round to 11 members, and the 4 members that they're at. As a result of that huge gap, and what's going to happen is if they stay on this same pace, in other words, if you just drew an imaginary line right through here, they'd probably end up with 5 new members by the 1st of June, assuming that they reach their average annual attrition of 9, which is a good assumption. Those 5 new members, those 9 lost members, will get us to a year-end forecasted net loss of 4 members. That's the value proposition of the club dashboard and the pace to goal ramp. What it tells us is that these folks are on nowhere near the pace of new member attraction that they needed to be on in order to finish the year positive, and odds are they won't. Now, it would be kind of tiresome if you had to walk through every one of these clubs in order to figure out where they are. So we've provided you what's called the year-to-date goal progress report. And the year-to-date goal progress report, I will turn on the attrition attraction counts year-to-date, and I will collapse this navigator over here so you can see the entire screen. What we see over here on the right-hand side is the year-end forecasted net loss of these clubs. Let's take a look at Bluffton, for example. Bluffton started the year at a 100-member club. Now, they did not have a 24-25 membership goal. To make the progress graph work, we need to assume the number of members they're going to need to not only replace their lost members, but also grow moderately. So we define moderately as 5%. We don't put that in here as a membership goal, but we draw the progress graph as if we were talking about a 5% net gain. So we assume Bluffton wants to grow from 100 to 105. Now they have average annual attrition of 8. And what that means is they will need 13 new members in order to reach that goal. They've already brought on 23 of those, so they are way ahead of the game. They are ahead of pace by 12 members. That blue actual bar is 12 members ahead of the gold line. And if they continue at this pace, 23 members year to date, that suggests they might bring on 26, 28 by the end of the year. They're likely to end the year at plus 20. They've lost 7 already against an average annual attrition of 8. Looks like that's going to turn into a pretty good forecast. So we would target their prospect of finishing this year with losing 8 members and gaining 28 from the 23 they've gained already to a landing point of roughly plus 20 members. Now, this is the ahead behind new member pace column. Every column in the MSC is sortable. So what we can do is click the top of that column and we can find the clubs that are way behind new member pace. And you know the clubs, you probably won't be surprised by the clubs that are on that list. Here are some clubs that are way, way behind new member pace. Not likely that they're going to catch up. On the other end of the spectrum, we sort the column the other way and we find the clubs that are significantly ahead of new member pace. Bluffton, the farthest out ahead, Hilton Head Island and Somerville coming in behind that. All 3 of those clubs are ahead of the pace where they need to be in order to finish the year at their goal. Now, you'll notice some other clubs that are only moderately short, 1, 2 members. They can catch up, but that is the point of this forecast, and that is that you have the opportunity to remind clubs such as Florence West that they're about 3.5 members behind pace. They're going to need about 5 or 6 more members in order to finish the year at their target, assuming they take that annual attrition of about 7. They've lost 3 of those already. So that's how the progress dashboard for the clubs works, and that's how the year-to-date goal progress report works, so that you can easily spot those clubs that are significantly off pace with respect to their own progress dashboard. Now, the other major point this makes is that we want to forget about paying attention to net gain loss at this time of the year. That's the only metric we've ever had to look at to gauge club progress, and it is highly misleading. What you recognize is that clubs with a net gain at this time of the year of 2 or 3 or 4 members are all excited, and they're starting to relax. They are completely forgetting that they have 4, 5, 6, or 8 more terminations likely to happen based on their average annual attrition over the course of the next couple of months. And in the words of one of our past district governors, that attrition bug will bite. So pay attention to the progress to goal metric, not the net gain year to date. Questions, anybody?
Can I just make a comment? I think it's very important that all of us on the district membership team and the assistant governors understand the significance of this information, first of all. But what's equally important is that we convey to the club leadership and the district, the club membership chair, the president-elect, the concept behind this and what it means for their membership growth plan. So it's a two-step process. We need to understand it so we can explain it, but then without explaining it to the club leaders, it's not going to be helpful.
And your best tool to do that is that progress dashboard graph. This report here, this is designed for yourselves so you can spot the trouble spots in a macro. This, of course, this report is not even accessible to the club leaders. What they want to be looking at is that progress dashboard graph. And you're a DAC-DB district, and what that means is that we will push the progress dashboard graph to the president, the PE, and the membership chair as soon as it's uploaded on the first of the month. And put it right in front of them. It's up to yourselves then to make sure that they understand what they're looking at and understand the significance of it. And these are highly predictive. You can start spotting clubs in September and October and November that are in trouble with respect to bringing enough new members to replace their likely attrition. And that's what everybody wants to forget about. That's what this fixation on net gain loss is about. And take a look here. Let me get my cursor going here. Here are clubs with a net gain of 3 or 4, and they're basking in the glow of all that. Here's the remainder of anticipated attrition that hasn't happened yet for those same clubs. Whoa, that's how that attrition bug bites. You've got a Charleston club here that loses on average 24 members a year, which is great for a 170 member club. They've only taken 14 of those so far. They've got 10 more to go, and they're up +4. That's not going to end well.
Terry?
Yes.
Thank you so much. This is really, really informational. I'm wondering back to Cleve's issue, because I've had the issue too of getting I don't have the district and zone tab, and I am district governor-elect. I've relied on your reports that have come in and drilled down within those reports. But when I just go through DAC-DB and go to Membership Success Center and it opens up in there, I'm only seeing my club or all the club. I can get to all the clubs in my district, but I don't have a district tab that shows me my district using DAC-DB. And I'm wondering if Cleve.
Let me explain. That's a selection. So the only thing available to your district is your club stats and your MGI report. You don't have the prerogative of browsing other districts.
Right, but how do we get to the district as a whole to see those clubs together instead of independently?
Oh, yeah, that's on the year-to-date. That's on this report, year-to-date goal progress. You see the clubs individually.
And
So
will I
it
be able to
doesn't
see
look-
it for a specific club there?
Yes, you can look at,
Okay.
yeah, you can look at all of them.
Okay,
So
I'll try that.
Yeah, on the left where it says home, progress dashboard, membership goal, go under reports and go to year-to-date goal progress and click on that. And that's where you'll be able to see what he's talking about. And then if you, Terry, how did you say to get rid of that so that you have the full screen? That area on the left, how did you say to
Yeah.
do that?
That little
Yeah, that was
three
nice.
slashes up the top. is
Slashes?
what the
Okay, oh
hamburger.
yeah,
Looks
there
like
you
a
go, the
hamburger.
hamburger.
Get the
Yeah.
hamburger, yeah.
And then
That's the
that-
official technology term for it.
And then that shows everything, so we can get that access to that. Thank
Right.
you. I actually was struggling with that and relying on your reports to get the information I needed, but thank you
So
for
just-
pointing out that it was.
Just
And
to be
then
clear,
on
one
your-
more. Go
On
ahead.
your district dashboard is where you see your own district success track, just as we saw in the video.
This is Ann Walker. I have one quick question. Yes, this is Ann Walker. I have a quick question. I like to always bore things down to make it real simple. And I think about if I was an incoming president now of a club, what are we doing to let the incoming presidents of these clubs know ahead of time what they're looking at and what needs to happen, where they currently stand, et cetera, because the current presidents are on the way out.
And I couldn't have set that up better. Stay tuned.
Okay.
All right, there we go. I'm waiting with bated breath.
The priorities of a president-elect right now are first, membership goal setting. And we're encouraging you to do that in the MSC. Now, Kevin and I took a look, and you have maybe 10 clubs district-wide that have entered a goal in the Rotary Club Central. But as you'll notice when we get into this section, the MSC has a lot richer background information on their club than they'll get in the Rotary Club Central. So our recommendation is drive your presidents-elect to this tool. If they want to enter that goal, then along with the 12 other ones that they have to enter in Rotary Club Central, that's fine. But this is the workspace, and maybe that's the reporting structure, you might say. The club membership plan. I don't know if you've given any direction to your clubs as far as filing a membership plan, but we have some suggestions and some tools here that will help facilitate that process. And then the member satisfaction surveys. The best known way to find out what their members want and expect is to survey their members and ask them. And they can do that now. They've got plenty of time. It'd be a great time for a president-elect to kick in during May or even June, run a member satisfaction survey, and that way they have a rock solid understanding. Columbia, that'd be my first suggestion. Run a membership satisfaction survey and find out what's causing those 20% plus people to leave the club in a year. And they'll tell you. The members that are on board now will tell you what they're happy with and what they're not. And of course, another 20% of those will make that decision over this coming year as to whether to stay or go. Let's talk about tools that are available for presidents-elect in that critical window before they take office. Those tools are in the Membership Success Center. Let's have a look. This is the welcome screen of the Membership Success Center. One of the first things we ask presidents-elect to do is set a membership goal, usually in pre-pets or pets. The membership goal link is right over here. This opens to the membership goal page, and I want you to notice that it opens to the current year. Now, presently, we're talking about the lead up to a new year, so the president-elect needs to be reminded to change that year to the upcoming year, 25-26, when they'll be president. And what you notice here is, since there's no goal set for the upcoming year, we pop this goal setting dialog box, which gives about a 3 or 4 sentence tutorial on what the goal setting process ought to look like. Let's click OK on that. And then we get into the goal setting page where it says at the top, create membership goal. Your club does not have a membership goal for the active year selected. You may create one now. And we give them another prompt that reminds them that they are about to create a membership goal for the active year, the one we just chose, 25-26. Now let's scroll down to the most important information on the page, and that is the club membership history. All the way down, we see a bar graph that reminds us that the club in 2020 to 2021 grew substantially. Then they had a fall off and have recovered much of that loss. That's interesting information for a president-elect who may or may not have even been a member of the club back in 2021 or 2022. So let's scroll up to the goal setting process. Up at the top of the page, these are the parameters that the president-elect needs to understand in terms of leading and planning the future of this club. The first is their average attrition rate, 11.5%. Really good, approaching best in class, significantly below that 16% average across North America. However, trouble is they have barely been attracting members almost at that pace. As a result, they've seen this moderate decline on average since that 3 years ago to today. So what are a reasonable set of goals for this club? Well, first question is, where do we expect to be starting from on July 1st? Their starting membership count is 79. Their current membership count is 76. They've declined a little bit this year. Let's assume that perhaps they have a couple of members in the pipeline and perhaps they end the year at, say, 78. The next thing that opens is the goal setting box, and you'll notice you can set a goal either by setting a growth rate or by picking a target number. Now, we could pick 80, 81, 82, or we could adhere to some fairly consistent suggestion that maybe a 5 to 10% growth rate is reasonable for most clubs. Let's put in 5% and see what happens. We back calculate that growth rate to a nearest whole member, and that would be a goal of 82. That is a net gain of 4, so we'll need at least 4 new members to reach that goal. And then considering their average membership loss, because of the size of this club, despite their very low attrition rate, they lose on average over the past 3 years 9 members a year. So now the president-elect understands, they're laser focused on the idea that in order to grow this club from 78 to 82, we're going to need 4 members. But we have to be mindful that we will likely lose 9 members over the course of the year. They haven't told us who they are yet, but they're likely to be gone by the end of the year. So we need a total number of new members of 13. That's what we charge the membership committee with. And we click Save Edits, and that's all finished. Now, we have presented the president-elect with some prompting along the way in the goal setting process. But the icing on the cake is this button over here, View Recommended Strategies. Since we already know that they have an exemplary attrition rate, we're not going to bother them about that. But we've already determined that their problem to solve is this insufficient attraction rate. It is not large enough to grow the club, even despite this very low attrition rate. So if you click the View Recommended Strategies button, what pops up are the things that general strategies would fit most clubs. Then the insufficient attraction prompts, a Rotary information hour, a who do you know, a gap analysis identifying missing professions or businesses in your club, and the president personally asking members to bring prospects to a Rotary information hour. So they have everything they need. They know exactly how many new members they need in order to meet the goal and replace attrition, and we provide them some ideas by which to do that. Scrolling up, there are a couple more things I wanted to point out. I did want to mention that there is a valuable coaching tool over here under the Download Worksheet button. When you click Download Worksheet, what happens is we create a one-page goal-setting worksheet that has absolutely everything you need to know in order to help and coach a club make good decisions about their membership goal process. You have their attrition rate and attraction rate at the top. You have their membership progress graph at the bottom. And you have the same boxes for membership goal setting on the page that you have on the live web page. This allows you to talk through the situation with the club, starting with their membership history and their attrition and attraction rates. Now, you'll be wondering which clubs have and haven't set membership goals for the year. You'll want to click on the Upcoming Year Goals by Club button right over here. And what you'll see in this report is clubs that have set membership goals. In the case of your district, none so far. Their membership goal will appear here, estimated membership here, and we'll calculate the net growth, and then we'll calculate that percentage so you can kind of litmus test as to whether those goals make sense or not. You also have a checkbox here once we get some goals entered. You also have a checkbox here by which you can show only clubs with no membership goals. Let's take a look at the next consideration that a club president-elect should be looking at, and that is a membership plan. You've no doubt asked the presidents-elect to be working on a membership plan. Some perhaps have, most perhaps haven't. So we have an Upload Membership Plan button here right on the goal setting page. You can get to it another way, and that is the Club Membership Plan link over here on the side. But this is a handy spot to move from after you set a membership goal. So what does uploading a membership plan look like? This is the Club Membership Plan page. And what you'll notice is, first of all, they don't have to start from a blank sheet of paper. We provide a link up here that says Download Plan Template. And what that does is it opens up a small library, a handful of ready-made club membership templates. They're slightly different, and you can take your pick. Then there's the four-step process of constructing a membership plan and the multi-point considerations that ought to be part of that plan. When we click Continue to Download, we're opened up to exactly that page. Closing that, we're back to the membership plan upload page. And let's presume that the president-elect has put a couple hours into working that plan and has it ready to go and ready to upload. They come back to this same page, Upload Club Membership Plan, and click the Upload Plan button. And what that does is it allows them to choose the year. Now again, that's 25-26. And it also allows them to pick the file that they want to upload as a club membership plan. This opens a Windows File Manager page, and you can pick your club membership plan out of your directory. Let's just pick this file as an example. Now that file is set, and if I click the Upload Plan button, and there it is. This link allows the club to download and review the club membership plan, any member of the club, actually. It also allows you as district leaders to have a look inside these membership plans and maybe provide a little bit of coaching from the sidelines. There's also a button over here that allows you to replace that uploaded file, meaning that if you had some additional thoughts after you came to a membership summit, you could add those into your plan that you kept locally on your machine and then re-upload it. And of course, it provides you exactly that same dialogue. It will just overwrite the plan that was there. So that's the club membership plan process. Now that the membership plan has been uploaded, that link is right here. And I also wanted to mention that there is a membership plans report by which you can find which clubs have and haven't uploaded membership plans. We won't take the time to look at that right now. And then finally, I'd like to call your attention to something that presidents-elect ought to be doing within the next couple of months before they take office, and that is providing a club member satisfaction survey to their members. Those are very easy to do in the Membership Success Center. They come from the surveys link right over here on the left. And of course, this club has no club survey set up, as you might imagine, but it's not hard to do. First thing is we provide some suggestions and ideas under the How Do Surveys Work button. Click on that, and a recipe for an effective club member satisfaction survey pops right up. Back on the surveys page, there's a button up here to the top right that says Create a Survey. Let's click that. All you have to do is enter a survey name. Click Publish. That's one mouse click. And then click Copy URL. That's another mouse click. And what that does is it copies to your clipboard a link to this club's survey that you can email, you can P-mail, you can even send it out as text. When the member clicks on this link, we will post their response to the Lexington Club surveys so that when you come back to the surveys page, what you'll see is an updated response rate, and you'll be able to review the results of a member satisfaction survey. Couldn't be easier. One click to create the survey, you name it and save it, and then you capture the URL, the web address, to send out to your club members so that they can click on that link and respond to the survey. Couldn't be easier. So those are some things that presidents-elect should be paying attention to prior to taking office. Get a goal set up, get a membership committee together and a membership plan uploaded, and execute a club member satisfaction survey so you can tell what you need to do to continue holding on to your members. And we have time for questions.
Just a comment. I just love, Terry, thank you so much for your time and energy that you put in just for our district. And Kevin, as he's planning for our spring training, May 30th, this is great information because it's going to be able to work directly with those president-elects, with the membership chairs of those clubs that we can really impact. So I just want to thank you for that. But please, any questions?
Yeah, Cleve?
Thank you. I echo your comments, Sandy. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think the main thing to get these president-elects is that's a tremendous video. And if they can have just even a concise email from one of us or something to their attention that they say at some point, go get the MAP downloaded, the Membership Success Center downloaded. Here's how, click here, blah, blah, blah. Then you need to do this about put in your goals. Here's how, and there's a video link right there, whatever they could watch. That's going to be really helpful. I'm sure that's probably what they'll get at district assembly. I did want to ask about the survey. In the past, I know there was a sort of you didn't have to create your survey from scratch, although some people wanted to do that. You could take a survey that was sort of offered by Rotary, and then you could sort of trim it down and edit it as you wanted. Is that still available?
That is still there. Yes, there's another button at the top that says create a customized survey.
I saw that.
This is a prepackaged survey. It's just the basics, but it takes zero effort to put it together. So now the RI version is pretty slick.
It is.
You can extract it to a Google form in your own Google account, and you can send that out. My first suggestion would be, though, trim it by 2/3. It's
right.
way too long.
I agree, but it was a nice way to kind of start.
It is a nice way to package it,
and then kind of. You're right.
Yeah.
It was too long,
but
that's okay.
You've got both of those buttons up at the top.
Okay.
Create
Perfect.
a survey.
I think that'll help them too.
Straight stick. And I have fixed your access level while we were offline here.
Thank you very much.
Terry,
Terry's very responsive.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add also, and I think Kevin may already know this, but to the point about directions for putting the map icon in your district tab, there's a very simple one-page, very well written guide. I've handed it out to a couple clubs on how to do that, and it's very, very easy. But that already exists. And I think something too, I just want to toss in from my perspective that we've been talking about president-elects, and obviously they hold the primary accountability for this. But in my club, all of this falls to me as the membership chair. So it's delegated. So keep that in mind.
And membership chairs would also be a level 4. In most clubs would be a level 4 access level, which allows them to do the goal setting. I wanted to point out, I should have had this in my outline. There is a link over here on the left side to video tutorials. It's at the bottom, called Video Guided Tours. This is a short set of tutorials. This is about 12 minutes. It's a overall guided tour of the MSC, a little more extensive than what we did here. And there's also a goal setting guided tour. So you can send that link. It's a YouTube video. You can send that link right out to the PEs along with the how to put the icon on your workspace, and they should have pretty much what they need to get started.
That is perfect. Thank you.
Mm.
Let's take a look at some of the tools in DACDB for district leaders, people who are working to help Rotary clubs. Starting from the DACDB homepage, if you're working with other clubs, you want to start on the District tab. And then the clubs list is right here on your workspace. And let's pick a club, let's say Blythewood, for example. We click on Blythewood, and what we see is the photographs of the leaders up here at the top. Now, you'll notice they haven't been particularly diligent about capturing photographs. And then you scroll on down to the member list at the bottom of the page. Now, you might want to know, if you're working with this club, what does the leader lineup look like, both forward and backwards? And that's available over here under Club Leadership History. When you click Club Leadership History, you see not only the past, but also the future leader lineup of this club. So you can tell who the players are right now, and you can tell who's already been identified as incoming players, and notably, those folks that have not been identified as incoming players, such as perhaps a membership chair. Back on the District tab, one of the other things you'll want to be able to do is identify missing presidents-elect, those clubs that for whatever reason have not yet come up with somebody to fill the president-elect slot. And the way you find that is you click on the District Committees tab, you scroll down to the presidents-elect, open that committee, and here's one of the best buttons in DACDB. That's the Missing Club button. You click on the Missing Club button and you get a list of the clubs that up to this point have not yet identified a president-elect for the upcoming year. This is going to take some work. Now, you'll also wonder about club membership chairs. You get at those exactly the same way. Back on the District tab, that report, you go to the District Committees button again. Now we're not looking for presidents-elect in the current year, but we're looking for club membership chairs in the upcoming year. So we switch the upcoming year to 25-26. And we'll look for membership, and we find a committee called District Membership Chairs in Clubs. We click on that committee, open that up, and we see the folks that are already identified as club membership chairs. Unfortunately, not near enough. That's where the Missing Clubs button comes in again. You click on the Missing Clubs button and you have a list of all the folks that are currently missing as far as membership chairs are concerned. Now, what do we do about that? This is a pretty slick feature. Up here on the top right, you click P-mail, and you get an option as to who you want to P-mail. Now, these are the current roles and responsibilities. So if, for example, you wanted to P-mail the incoming presidents-elect and the current sitting presidents, and maybe the club secretary, perhaps the assistant governor, but maybe not. That might be yourself. When you click P-mail, what happens is we create a P-mail to those individuals in these particular clubs. Is that slick or what? We've got a P-mail addressed to them. You've got and you can compose the P-mail down below. It will be personalized to their first name. Now, what I'd suggest you do is compose that P-mail in advance, save that as a template. You do that by clicking this little floppy disk icon over here. You save that as a template. That would be a district template or a personal template. And that way you can compose and test the P-mail, and you can come back and send it to this group of people, which you can retrieve exactly the same way that we just saw. I wanted to mention some other features of the DACDB P-mail platform. I'm going to drop out of this so we don't send something confusing to all these folks. Over in the DACDB Pmail platform, one of the things that we have are some system templates that allow you to link people directly into specific pages of the Membership Success Center. Let's start by doing a select template, and let's pick system templates. We scroll all the way to the bottom, and at the bottom of the list we find the MSC related templates. This is one called Membership Action Plan Goal Setting. This is one called Membership Satisfaction Survey, somewhat self-explanatory. Membership Action Plan Goal Setting, we'll click on the radio button and then click Use Selected Template. What that does is open up a template that you'd want to send to presidents-elect that haven't set membership goals yet in the MSC. And the please click here is what we call a hot link, and that links directly to the membership goal page. Now, you do want to remind them to change the year drop down at the top right to 25-26, but the advantage of doing it this way is you drop them directly into the membership goal setting page for their own club with no login required. When they click the link, the MSC opens to their club and to their membership goal setting page. Now, of course, you can do anything you want to this template, and you can save it as we showed before. You could save that as a district template, and you could save whatever customizations you had done to it, and then you'd have that district template to come back to, as opposed to the generic system template, Membership Action Plan Goal Setting. So those are a few easy tools in DACDB that should be very helpful to you as a district leader working to help Rotary clubs. How to identify the current leadership and club members, how to identify the leadership history and the forward leadership lineup, and of course, how to communicate with those people that haven't yet identified their leaders in the form of presidents-elect or in the form of club membership chairs for the upcoming year.
Well, I want to echo Sandy's gratitude to you, Terry, for putting this together. It's amazing to me, all of the information that we can now access that really helps us focus in on very specific issues with each club, in terms of whether it's attraction or attrition or whatever the issue may be. So, I think there's just so many tools now and resources and reports that will make our jobs more effective, I think. So thank you for your time. I know you got a lot on your plate, and I appreciate your doing this for us.
Happy to help.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our participants here. I appreciate your giving up another hour of your time to Rotary, but I think it's been well worth it, and hopefully you feel that way too. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody.
All right.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Bye-bye.
Terry.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks.